Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again. It's been a long time since my last stream. I'm in a new office. I'm sitting in front of an empty wall, so I'm sure my acoustics are crap. Although I do have a slat wall to my right, so maybe that'll help a little bit. I've still got a little bit of putting together to do, but basically I broke my ribs 2.5 weeks ago. That kind of threw me off a bit. And then we decided to redo the office. We're getting a new bookshelf. We've gotten new desks. We've brought my wife into the office because she had been working upstairs in our guest room, but that's now our daughter's room as our son moved into her room. Not that you need to know all of that jazz, but basically we've been doing a lot around here and I have not had much time at all to do any gaming. And so I think I'm going to play some like Baseball Stars 2 on my Switch. I'm not sure if that's the same Baseball Stars 2 as I had on my NES. It looks a little different. So I kind of want to buy it and take a look. But in any event, it's been a while since we played. So today we're going to be doing some Gary Grigsby's Bombing the Reich. This is going to be an interesting mission because we've got really good cloud cover. It's like 7% over Germany. So we should have good weather for bombing and, more importantly, for navigating. The reason that the 7% matters more for me today is because the heavy bombers in the American side need a day off. They are exhausted. Their fatigue levels are high. Their morale is low. And so they need some rest. And so we will send 100 or so out just to keep the 8th Air Force moving. But generally speaking, we've got kind of 4 main raids that we're going here during the daylight hours. And that is going to be over the channel. So we've got 4 bomber groups that are going to be going toward channel targets here. We have this is the British, but we've got a Typhoon raid here with 140 fighters, which will presumably bomb the rail depot as well. And then 119 Typhoons that are going to be hitting Amsterdam here. So that's sort of one of 4 channel raids that we've got going for us. We are also going to go ahead and hit Zeebrugge on the channel. That's the second of these channel raids, and that's going to be hit with 61 B-17Fs and 51 B-17Gs, so 112 B-17s, as well as about 100 Thunderbolts and 60 Spitfires to try and hit that port and rail facility. Is it a rail facility, or it's just? I guess it is a rail facility as well for that area. And then actually none of these are port targets. These are all rail heads along the channel. We've already bombed Dunkirk, damage 94%. We've bombed Flushing, damage 86%. We have not bombed Amsterdam's port, so maybe we should be doing that. Although, generally probably a bad idea long term. I guess the Germans probably have enough time to repair it a bit. We're also going to be bombing Abbeville, the rail depot there. We're going to be doing that again with British aircraft, 93 Typhoons and 41 Spitfires. And we have a raid going on St. Pol-sur-Mer, which is another rail depot here near the channel, near Dunkirk. And that's going to be an American raid with 59 B-26 Marauders and 40 Spitfires, roughly. So those are the main daylight raids over Northern Europe. We've got a bunch of stuff going in Italy as well. But we're not going to go ahead and spend a ton of time on that. But we do have our big raid. And the reason I was talking about the weather is this may be risky because I think 18 means there's a lot of moonlight. I don't really understand the moon here. I need to look this up in the manual probably, but 18 to me seems like it might be near a new moon. So this may be suicidal. We'll see. But my plan is to hit Berlin today, and they've moved a heavy flak unit in too. So 7% cloud cover might be bad for the aircraft safety, but it is good because we are going to be well outside the ability to use the radar beams to guide us onto the target itself. We will need to have visual bombing. We've got navigation in our lead Pathfinder units. So we do have radar there. But we can't use like the oboe or the G or whatever to direct us onto a radar guided target. We can use radar navigation, but that is less sort of reliable. And many of the aircraft in our formation do not have that. So we're not bombing on radar. We will be navigating on radar. And then hopefully, because we've got good cloud cover, the other follow-on groups in the stream will not get lost. And we will be able to bomb Berlin with about 590 bombers in the middle of the night. So we will see how that plays out. We will not race through the nighttime phase like we usually do to try and get a good visual on what's all going on. So with that being said, we're also hitting a bunch of rail depots in Italy, but let's go ahead and end the phase and go ahead and get into the turn. I guess we'll do message level 1 just so we can kind of watch this thing. We're only going to do one turn, so we might as well take our time watching as things unfold, especially since we don't have a lot of deep penetration daylight strikes. And the raids over Italy probably won't be resisted too heavily because we're going to be having, the Italians have dropped out of the war. And so I doubt we will have to deal with too much German fighter activity, especially since most of our raids are in and along the front lines. We've got 2 major raids over some infantry units along the front lines, and then we've got like 3 or 4 raids on depots either in Rome or closer to the front than Rome. So I don't think the Germans will have much in the way at all of any fighter cover to try to deal with us. But we will see. We will see. So we can see here we've got some aircraft going in Italy. The initial recon flights are having a bit of a mixed bag in terms of their ability to see the targets. And me, Kosloth, in terms of the ribs, I am feeling iffy. They're definitely still there. They're definitely still sore. But I'm hoping they're getting better. I don't know. I've been moving a lot of furniture, lifting heavy children. We went to the lake over the weekend for a family reunion thing. And I was like lifting my 4-year-old in and out of the water, like jumping up and down because she wanted to do splashing and stuff. So probably shouldn't be doing that with broken ribs, but I am. So we will see. I don't know. I'm breathing, so that's good. I did have to sneeze once a couple days ago, and it felt like I re-broke my ribs because, that's hard to do. All right, F5A, the first aircraft lost over the channel, crashed due to damage. A recon aircraft must have taken some flak damage. It's pretty light. Waning gibbous. I just read my daughter a story about the moon where we talked about the 8 different phases of the moon for bedtime stories. The channel raids, by the way, in northern France and Holland are mainly to keep the Luftwaffe up. I could have taken the day off for daylight raids entirely, but I didn't want to. We've been hitting Northern Europe pretty heavily, and I was really a little bit antsy about allowing the Luftwaffe an entire day's rest. It felt like it might sort of cause us to lose a lot of what we've been doing to try to exhaust their equipment and their personnel, even though my own crews need some rest. So I kind of compromised by some Typhoon and medium bomber raids and one small-ish B-17 raid, hoping that they would be close enough to the channel that it would draw up, that it would not lead to fruitful intercepts by the Germans, but that it would be enough to draw them at least to scramble some of their squadrons up. We're not going to get probably 1,000 enemy sorties tonight, but maybe it would at least get them up in the air a little bit and allow us to keep some of their crews, wear out some of the aircraft that they otherwise might have regained from a total day off. You can see the first raid going in here on this rail yard here near Dunkirk. Not really much in the way of German aircraft, actually. We got like a few back here in the Ruhr. And then these guys are hitting these railheads, and I see almost nothing in the way of scrambled aircraft. So these Typhoons are going in and hitting the Abbeville rail yard. The other aircraft are hitting the rail yard near Dunkirk. If the Germans do scramble meaningful numbers of aircraft, it'll probably be around Amsterdam. Otherwise, it might just be a lot of night flights. I do also have a problem in that I do not have really much in the way of diversionary RCM strikes. So I've got 12 RCM aircraft flying with the night raid over Berlin, hopefully to jam enemy aircraft spread out over the course of the raid. But given the daylight and given the constant and the situation in the RAF, I did not have a bunch of diversionary jamming strikes. So that may lead to a convergence of a lot of German fighters on the raids at night. So we will see how badly the RAF suffers. Meanwhile, actually, we did get quite a few enemy squadrons scrambling here. 14 there, 14 here, 13, 40 Me-410As. So I don't know if it was the Amsterdam raid, but we definitely see a couple hundred at least German aircraft scrambling here. Looks like the Zeebrugge and the Dunkirk and the Abbeville raids probably got in without damage. The Typhoons are hitting Amsterdam right now, and I don't think, maybe they'll get hit on their way back a little bit. We do have fighter cover, but I'm guessing a lot of them are going to crash down to the surface to hit the rail yard as well as they are wont to do, especially in a medium altitude strike. So we may take some casualties on the way out, but we will see. We've got some recon flights going elsewhere as well. But the B-17s here are hitting Zeebrugge. I think they'll be out before anything happens. Can we see if we take a look here? Does it show me? Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's all the stuff's plastered. These rail yards are going to be spent. They should all be red. So that'll at least be good. This is, I'm running Windows 10 right now. I do need to use, forget the name of the program. There is a utility I use to help performance on a modern Windows OS, but it is available in the forums for the game. So what you are watching right now is playing on Windows 10. Okay. So the Italian raids are going in. Most of them were set to take off at 11, so it looks like we're hitting these rail yards here with some Bostons. I don't know how effective. The mediums are always pretty disappointing in terms of their impact on targets, I feel like. It's mostly their impact on troop concentrations, which I suppose is historically accurate. But mostly switching over to largely rail yards. Since I can't bomb factories in Italy right now while we're ordered to support the invasion, we might as well, hit the thing that has at least a tangential relation to factory performance. All right, so our Spitfires are trying to beat off a couple of Germans that are trying to intercept our raids as we attempt to extricate ourselves. So some dogfights over the channel here with some Thunderbolts and with some Spitfires against these F-190s and 109s, I think I saw. 6 109s bouncing the Czech squadron. I think this is the first time we've seen the Czech squadron in action. I saw 3 Czech squadrons in the mission planning, but only one of them was able to make it to this raid. Its full destination there. But they seem to be doing reasonably well. Wow, these 109s are like, they bounce these P-47s right over England. Ballsy. On their way out. Killed one, took one. 26B, 25s hitting the, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that rail yard. So, couldn't really tell if it did anything. Pilot crash landing wounded. All right, so we're through pretty much all the raids. There'll still be recon and stuff like that going on, but we're through pretty much all the raids over Northern Europe here. A very light day, 7 to 5 casualties so far. One Typhoon was just crashed on landing. P-47 crashed on landing. Individuals wounded. More photo reconnaissance going on. But yeah. Trying to do some auto reconnaissance flights over some airfields over Northern Europe to try and get a better sense of where the Germans are. Oh, that was a Berlin recon flight, because we did send multiple recon planes to Berlin as well to try and get updated photos before the night raid starts. Target visible for this guy here flying at 1400 hours. No, it's obscured by smoke. Smoke generators on the ground. It's not debris smoke. It's smoke generators by the defenders trying to block out line of sight. I think we had an earlier flight in the day, though, that got through. Okay. Cloud cover's pretty light, although Berlin's got a nice little bank right over it. But we're still 7-8 hours away from any of the night bombers even really being anywhere near it. Part of the other problem with having a day with good visibility is it also means that the bombers that fly, diversions would in theory be less effective, I think, because if you can see the enemy aircraft, then, you know, if they're above cloud cover, you might hear aircraft, you might report aircraft, your radar might be jammed by RCM, you might not have a good sense of what's actually there. Whereas like you might just be able to see like, oh, those guys may be dropping rain, what is it called? Window or whatever. You might not have a good radar picture, but a spotter can still see what's up there when you got a lot of moonlight. So we'll see how badly we get butchered here in was it a waning gibbous? Reminds me of that Tom Grossi video where he's the Detroit Lions had some weird stat. Like anytime there was a waning gibbous, they just like sucked. He made a funny little short video about that. Yeah. All right, it's getting toward nighttime. The sun sets at like 18 something, I think, in this turn. Moonrise is 21:13. But the moon is up all night. It's up till 11 a.m. So no hiding from the moon tonight. All right, light is dropping. I've never really looked at the light percentage. 0%. Will it start ticking back up when the moonrise comes? So there would have been actually like an hour or two window I could have launched that radar. All right, light is 18%. All right, here we go. Bombers are going in. German fighters are swarming them. The lead is actually an RCM. We've got a few bow fighters doing some interdiction strikes on some rail yards and airfields to try and draw the German night fighters off. Looks like they got a 109 G6 on the ground. Good job, boys. All right, 109 hitting a B-24. That's funny. I forgot I gave B-24s to some Royal Air Force groups. All right, mosquitoes are dropping their bombs in the Berlin area. Berlin's a nice big target too, so it's easier to hit. Now you don't always like get a firestorm in the same way, but these guys are like way south, but they're still hitting like city targets here. Tempelhof, it's like several miles off target, but it's still putting bombs in the right area to generate terror score. Oh man, you guys missed all the way down there. Give me a break. I don't see any fires though, so that's going to be, you know, the ideal with the good weather is you can bomb the target, set it on fire, and follow-on raids can see where you dropped and effectively hit their target. But there's no red squares there indicating no real meaningful amounts of damage or fires going. Another 109 destroyed on the ground. Hell yeah, bow fighters, do your thing. Probably also impacting the fatigue and morale of those enemy aircraft. They got a 110 on the ground too. Mosquitoes hitting a rail yard at night. Wellington getting hit by Ju-88. I will say, like, we also had a larger number of Sterlings and Wellingtons in this raid because a lot of our better aircraft were needing the day off. So this is kind of a B team raid on Berlin, which may be a bad idea, but we will see. Halifax 5 there. Take some damage from the enemy night fighters. I think that's our first aircraft that took damage from night fighters. Another 109 destroyed on the ground, boys. You are doing work. Get those Germans. Get their aircraft. Shoot them up. Smash them up. Smash them up. 109 crashed while landing. Target area is clear. Lancaster 3 is bombing. Bombs falling in the Berlin area right on target. Center of the target. I think those might actually be the Pathfinders right there. The other raids may have been faster aircraft who got ahead of the bomber stream, like Mosquitoes. But I know the Pathfinder group was a Lancaster unit. So these guys are dropping on target in the Berlin area. Not sure why it's freezing. Come on. That's weird. There we go. We got a little bit of a fire cluster falling here. So the heaviers are coming in. Maybe that's why we had no fires, as they were lighter aircraft. Mosquito's not dropping too many bombs that are going to start firestorms. In the Friedenau area, we got a nice little concentration. I had the path come in so that their bombs would hit an area that has not been burned out yet. And that even as they sort of snake back and follow the formation away from the center of the target, it should all be good. Should all be areas that are not yet hit. These guys are bombing north, so we've got kind of two concentrations of damage and fire. That's strange that they would hit that far north. A couple of scattered fires there. 109 damage on the ground. I believe we're still in the period where the British jamming is pretty effective, so perhaps the early raids got in and the Germans couldn't close to the bomber stream very well because they didn't have open area down here, frickin' Sterlings, because they didn't have good radars on them, maybe. Not really sure. We see a lot of German aircraft around where the bomber stream would be. I had just like group leads, but now I've got all the aircraft on. God damn it, Lancasters. Bomb further north. Why are you so far south? Hit the damn targets. All right, there. Those Sterlings are dropping on. So the German area is this big circle, but then there's all these smaller sort of boroughs, if you will, of Berlin. So that's why you've kind of got this layout here. But as long as you're inside one of these green circles, you do industry damage, which translates to terror damage. And for lack of, what is perhaps good taste, the way that you score points is by dehousing the Germans or hitting urban targets and doing damage to urban areas. So we got a real nice concentration of fires here just south of the center of Berlin. And we're still having the majority of our aircraft dropping in that area, doing a good job of keeping that going. I don't know how many of these will be fully burned out sections, which will be like black squares, or how many of these may just reflect as light damage, which is like light yellow, or like, the stronger the yellow, the more the damage. And then like if it's totally bombed out, then it becomes a black square, which represents a square mile of effectively completely destroyed city. But a lot of these Lancasters are bombing just south. I don't get it. Haven't been paying too much close attention in the last few raids to the urban targets. I don't know how typical this is to have this number of bombers off target, but we've been doing most of our raids in the Ruhr, where we're inside the range of oboe and whatnot, so we can drop on radar. And again, we're outside that radius, so bombing is being done visually by the bombardiers or by the groups, either bombing on the group in front of them or bombing based on their navigation. A few of the groups do have radar navigation, but it's still not the same, because it's not like, hey, when you get to this point when these two radar beams meet, drop your load. We're not using that. Hitler died from that last bomb. And it was deciding, where it froze up for a second there. Yeah, I guess. Can I time night fighter raids to catch these Luftwaffe fighters that they are decoyed? You can time night fighter raids. Whether they will catch Luftwaffe, like, I am not knowledgeable enough to know what the ideal spacing of fighters are. I usually send my night fighters in on the same path as the bomber streams. I usually send them a couple of 1,000 feet up, and then I typically send them at 10-minute increments so that they loosely are flying in and around the bomber formation, hopefully picking up German fighters as they approach. I have definitely had very successful turns where night fighters shoot down a good number of enemy night fighters. Although we have not seen that today. Part of the problem is with Berlin's location, a lot of our night fighters do not actually have the range to get here. And other ones needed the day off. But yes, you can, in theory, do that. All right, so you can see the fires are kind of snaking off to the west a bit. Okay, yeah, that does. Moon is 18, light is 18%, so that actually makes some sense. I am surprised how many aircraft the Germans lost on the ground at night. And I don't think we actually mentioned it, but it is September 18th, 1943. Saw a couple of those fires blink out. Okay, damaged Sterling crashes, BF-109 crashes. There we've got Ju-88 is attacking one of our bow fighters. The Germans got the better of that night dogfight. More aircraft have been lost at night than during the day. And we flew like 600-700 sorties over the Med against several targets. We didn't really focus on them a whole lot. But we did have a lot of sorties over the Med. And Ju-88s are attacking some of our Sterlings, I think on the way out. Halifax RCM destroyed? That's not great. Radar countermeasure aircraft are worth their weight in gold. Can we pause here for a sec? Just want to see what I can see for Berlin. I don't know if there's any more aircraft heading there. Maybe at the end of it is almost 3 in.the.morning. Trying to see. Looks like most of the fires are out. I think Friedenau has some I think these black squares are all burned out. So it should increase our terror score a bit. Not dramatically. It wasn't enough bombers. It wasn't enough concentration, but some. Meanwhile, the night fighters are mostly trying to hit the aircraft on their way out. Allied losses are mounting, but certainly not as disastrous as they could have been, although I say that before these guys all crash while trying to land. Hey, he's okay. He crashed the plane, but he's okay. So you can see our loss is definitely ticking up as these damaged aircraft crash on the runways. But the Germans also suffer some damage as well. Okay. All right, all missions complete. 22 aircraft lost total for the day. I don't think anything... Allies invade Sardinia! Oops. Turn the music back on, huh? All right, so I didn't know we invaded... I honestly don't know anything about the invasion of Sardinia, but it should give us some nice airfields once we overrun the enemy. I'm guessing we're down here near Calgary. If we can take that quickly, that would be nice, and then we can have some airfields to base fighters to escort. The bombers can come from North Africa, and they can just join them across the ocean. Or the Mediterranean Sea, I guess, technically. All right, let's take a look at the after-action reports. Let's take a look at the bomber formations. That 595 bomber raid lost 11 aircraft. That is not bad at all. That is, I don't have the calculator on me, but that is a loss rate of less than 2%. Right? No, I can't do math. 10. 2. Math is hard on the spot. But 11 bombers out of almost 600. That is not bad at all. Yeah, 2%. Okay. I was 1.8. All right, I'm not crazy. Sweet. 2 bombers out of 119 that hit Amsterdam. They were Typhoons. We lost 1 fighter. The enemy lost 5 interceptors on that raid, so that's definitely a win there. 5 enemy fighters intercepted and destroyed versus 1 fighter and 2 bombers over Amsterdam. 1 fighter and 1 on our end, 1 fighter on the enemy end on the Zebra raid. And so we didn't lose a single B-17 on any of those raids. We did lose a couple of bombers in Italy, but not much. So overall, I would say that was a very successful turn. A number of the enemy aircraft that were destroyed on the ground. The most successful raid was this raid number. Thank you for the bits, sir. Appreciate it. The most successful night fighter raid here was raid 78. Had 6 night fighters with it, and they went to Berlin. They shot down 2 enemy fighters, losing none of their own. So good for them. Of the enemy aircraft lost, 8 were shot down. And then 9 were lost on the ground. The enemy lost 5 BF-109G6s, 2 F-190A6s, 1 BF-109G-A2, 4 110G4s, 1 109G6U4N. I'm guessing that's a night fighter variant. We lost 1 bow fighter, 4 Sterling 3s, 4 Halifax 2s, 1 Lancaster 2, 2 Lancaster 1s, an F-5A Lightning reconnaissance plane, and a Boston 3, 2 P-40F Warhawks, 1 47, 1 Spitfire 5B, a Halifax RCM, and a Mosquito RCM. So 2 RCM aircraft lost. It's kind of a big deal. We only had 4 and 5. We had actually 3 and 4 respectively for those 2 aircraft type going into this raid. And we lost 2 Typhoon 1Bs. 22 Allied aircraft lost total against 1,700 enemy. 2,600 Allied sorties versus 1,100 Germans. A relatively light day on the sortie count. We getting any more 38Js? We've produced 162 P-38Js, but we have none in the pool. What about the B-17G? We're trying to start equipping. 56 B-17Gs are in the pool. Hell yeah, brother. So we're going to start. Maybe we could move another group to them. But I may want to look at the handful of groups that have it already just to make sure that none of them are like severely depleted. Plenty of Fs are in reserve. B-24Js. I don't really know the difference between the J and the D. Okay. No Mustangs yet. Give you those chin turrets. Hell yeah, brother. All right. Top pilots. No one's an ace yet. Granted, this is just starting since like 2 weeks ago. Okay. Campaign summary. Terror bombing is up to 110,049. That brings the terror score from 10 to 11, so it increased it by 1. I think the industry damage is unchanged at 3. It did. I don't know if it dropped a little bit. I have to go back and check. I don't think rail yards count for strategic bombing unless they destroy the ability for factories to move goods between them, which I can do, but Germany is looking at 2,200 ready aircraft. Still quite a few not ready. Five pilots KIA for them versus 11 for us and 6 MIA. So 17 crews missing for us or lost. Okay. 8th Air Force is required to hit U-boat pens. God damn you, Churchill. U-boat threats overblown. Stop making me bomb U-boats. What do the B-17s look like? I gave most of them the day off yesterday. Let's just take a look here. So we have a few groups below 50. I usually don't like flying guys unless they're above 50, but you can see last. Some of these guys haven't flown in 5 days. It's in an effort to get their morale up. Does a milk run give them a good sense of what they should be doing here? Send these guys in, 32 B-17Fs to, I guess that deep of a U-boat raid may not actually be a milk run, because U-boats give you no victory points in this game. It's just something you're required to do for political reasons. Now, if you hit U-boat factories, it can preempt your need to hit U-boat pens. It can prevent them from demanding you hit U-boat pens. And U-boat factories do impact strategic scoring because they count as factories. But pens are just a waste. Most of these guys are back up to full strength. So if we were to do a max effort here with some of these new squadrons which have arrived in the last few weeks, we could do almost 500. A couple of these groups are down. 379, I think, is still transitioning to the B-17G, so they're at like half strength. And then the 95th and 35th bomb groups are also a bit low. But we're not that far off a max effort. It'll be like 8, 14, 30, 32. So max effort right now for the B-17s would be 512 aircraft. How are the fighters of the 8th Air Force doing? Great morale in the 112 squadron, 91 morale. All of them have pretty good morale. Fatigue's all manageable. Most of them got the day off. Fatigue on the 17s, except for the guys who flew yesterday. Everybody's below 5, which is great. We're not going to fly that raid, but I was just checking. What's the weather look like now? Looks a lot cloudier. 57% cloud cover over Germany. I saw just clip up here. I hate how this is like glitched a bit. Only 18% over France though. So the French raids, I mean, that's definitely the target, or maybe along the Ruhr. How's the Royal Air Force if we were to, not saying we'll go for Berlin again, but if we were to do something, they're a lot more banged up. We got groups here with a lot of groups here with less than 10 ready aircraft. I am curious what a max effort would look like, but we're not going to do it. But we'll just show you like how many aircraft we could muster if we had to. Yesterday was a max effort with aircraft groups with like 48 or higher morale. I would also assume a Berlin strike is just going to have a natural large number of aircraft sort of down for maintenance between after that kind of a long flight, all the while taking flak and other things. But in theory, if we were to launch a raid, what could we bring? Not that groups with 10 and 30 morale should be flying, but 750. So we're like 500 aircraft below max capacity almost. So they definitely need some time. We'll see. I'm not sure what we're going to do for the September 19th turn. It is turn number 34, so we're still early on in this campaign, even though this series has been going a long time on YouTube. And yeah, I know this is a short stream, guys, but we'll do a longer one soon. It's been a little while with the rib and then the office remodel. Got a new light fixture in here, new wall, new paint, new desks. Still getting everything situated. Still healing up on the rib. Italy at least has decent weather, and it looks like we hit most of those rail yards pretty effectively. Some of them only 30% damage. Lorenzo, we got up to 88. It was at 60 something before. And then we also got the 94th Infantry Troop to 50% disruption. I think we're actually at the 44th. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Again, I know a bit on the shorter end, but I hope you guys did enjoy. And then maybe we'll be back tomorrow. Maybe we'll do some more Strategic Command World War II War in the Pacific with the China DLC. I've been enjoying that series. But yeah, that's going to do it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for coming out. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out. Bye-bye.